And as I mentioned yesterday, we do provide the uniform compliance guidelines. Since I didn't get to do it yesterday, I guess I can show you our website. There's a lot of these that you're going to want to bookmark, I'm sure. I can spell, I can't type to save my life. Well, I still did it wrong. So this is our home page. I want to point out right here where it says audit reports. If it'll open up for me. Well, maybe I need to go down a little further. Under that it says learn more. If you click on that, we were talking about this yesterday, it will bring up, well, eventually, a searchable database where you can put in the unit, so you put in your county's name, what years you're interested in, and it'll bring up the audit reports that have been issued on that. So if you ever want to look at your former, especially for the new officials, you want to look at your previous audit reports for your county, this is where you go to find those, and that's a very good thing to have. You can read it online, you can print it off, download it, but this is where you're going to find those. If you're interested in anyone else's, all of our audit reports that are issued are accessible through here. Probably not where I want to go. Okay. And then on the left-hand side, you see that political subdivisions. If you expand that, it goes down through the different political units, so you can find counties. Click on that, that brings up the counties page. Right there, we talked about yesterday, there's my name and Stephanie's name, our phone numbers. If you click on our name, it'll open up an email with our address already in it, so you don't have to type it, which for someone like me is very beneficial. And you can get emails to us. Now a little further, you have the county offices. Each one of these is underlined, which means there's a link. So if you click on your county office, it's going to take a page that's dedicated to your particular office. So there's an auditor, treasurer that you can go to. On these pages, you're going to find, I'll just stay on the county one, it's easier. Our uniform compliance guidelines I talked about yesterday. Here's where the manuals are. Here's where the bulletins are. The state examiner directives are accessible here. The bulletins, I think I need a bigger screen. So the bulletins are, there's 10 years worth here. There's a topical index at the top you can use if you want to just look it up by topic. There's also instructions at the bottom that tells you, if you clicking here, you can download the whole, all of the bulletins onto your computer, and then you can search it. Use the PDF search to search it by keyword, which is what we usually do, so it's a really good tool to have. What else is? I talked a little bit about this yesterday. So these are some of the common code sites. So under compensation benefits, you extend it. It tells you exactly where you can go. I think the links still work on these where it'll take you directly to that, but if you know what the site is, you can put it in on the General Assembly website and search the code. So these are good things to have as well. There's a lot there. Just as Jenny pointed out, we also have a link to the gateway. And so this is where you're going to go for auditors to put in your annual financial report, the 100R in January. That's the compensation for all of your employees by position. That's a required report. The annual report is due March 1st. That's another required report. The gateway upload application is new for counties. It's not going to start until January of next year. Cities and towns are already doing this in the special districts. But for both schools and counties, we waited a little year. It's brand new to everybody. So no one really knows about it yet, including Stephanie and I are still learning how this is going to work. So we can't give you a whole lot on it, but it's basically, when I talked about yesterday, a way to upload monthly for each office your financial statement for the month, whatever form that takes, and your bank reconcilement. And that gives us some information up front when we're preparing our audits, when we're planning them, when we're doing some analytical data analysis on them. So all of the offices will be doing this. The auditor, for those of you who are new, are going to be learning it. For the ones that are there already know about Gateway. You are only responsible for your office, because that was a big question going in. Each office will have access to upload their own. So the recorder, sheriff, treasurer, they'll have their own way to access Gateway and load it up. They're not going to be giving it to you and having you do it. Access to highway operational report is on here as well. You guys don't do this, the highway departments do it, but just so you know where it is, and there is going to be a new report they've been working on this year they're going to be using next year. For the auditors, you will be involved because they must be able to tie their information back to the funds ledger for those highways. So MVH, local road and street, major moves, any funds they are using for highway projects. They have to be able to tie it back to their funds ledger, so you may have more contact with them that you've had in the past. We are tracking this. We were always responsible. I want to point that out too, especially for the auditors. We have always been required to track this, but somehow in the process it got to where we were supposed to report to the Auditor of State's office by March 1st, who had not submitted, but the report wasn't due till June 1st. So it didn't make a whole lot of sense, and we stopped doing it. But now they're lined up. The statute lines up. They're due June 1st, and we are supposed to report to Auditor of State if we do not receive it for your county, and they are to withhold the MVH and local road and street distributions until it is received. So it's going to have an impact that it probably hasn't had in the past, just so you'll be aware of it, especially for your highway departments, for the surveyors here. Meeting materials, when you expand on that, this is counties, but on each of your pages, the auditor's page, treasurer's page, there is meeting materials. Just like the other offices, we go ahead and load our presentations on there, so if you lose them on the way home or have no desire to take them home with you, you can still access them later. I talked about this a little bit yesterday on best practices. We are trying to, we thought it was a great idea. We wrote 2 best practices, and then we got so busy, we didn't write anymore. Stephanie's been working on some for internal controls, and we are, hopefully, once we get through this year, get our backlog caught back up, get everything back under control again, we'll be able to start loading some more on here. These are not uniform compliance guidelines. These are just suggestions. Best practice is not something you have to do. The uniform compliance guidelines is something that you are required to do. But these are just some ideas. Okay. So another way to access your audit reports, if you forget how, there's always on the web page there is too. If you have comments regarding your SBOA staff, this is a place you can send those in. Whether it's Stephanie and I or whether it's our field out, if you have issues or you want to compliment them, they would appreciate that. These go directly to the board. We don't see it, the field doesn't see it, so you don't need to worry about somebody seeing it and getting angry or getting upset with you. These go directly to the board, and they use them part of training, evaluations, things like that. So if you want to get something to them, you can also contact them directly. Obviously, Paul told you that yesterday. And the last thing is the responsibilities under 511-127. I talked about that briefly yesterday. That's where you have to report if you have a material variance. And there's a link to the directive that talks about setting up your materiality, what that actually means for you. There's some additional information there. I'm going to go back up to this for a second because I talked about it yesterday. I don't know if it'll show it up there. It usually comes up probably with the most recent ones that we've done. So if you look on here, if you look like North Harrison Community School Corporation's kind of halfway down there, and it's on the line. It's got two lines. One says supplemental, one says federal single audit. So the federal single audit is going to be, or if it just says financial audit, that's going to be your financial statements and then anything on your federal programs. The supplemental, which is probably the one for a lot of you that you're going to be interested in, is going to have any comments that were actually included in the report, including the federal findings. We pull them in there as well. So the supplemental, if you want to see if your office had a particular comment on it, that's what you're going to look for, those supplemental. But it gets confusing because there's two for the same time period for the same unit. But that's why, because we do have that supplemental. All it does is show the comments. It doesn't have the financial statements or anything else in it. Okay. Go back for me. Maybe not. Okay. This section is new, was new in 2018. This is where you put your corrective action plan. It's not something you're going to be doing until you've actually been audited. And the audit, when we come in an audit next time, we're going to be doing at least 2017. Those are what we're going to be doing in 2018. So it's going to be your predecessor, if you're brand new to the office, that we're actually looking on that. Your responsibility starts with the first day you come into office. So that would be when we audit 2018. Okay, so if there are findings, they may not necessarily be your responsibility, but you will be the one told because you will be the one that was going to need to correct those findings. If you have a repeat finding, even if it was because your predecessor did something or failed to do something or was in non-compliance and it's a repeat finding, even for 2017, you have to write the corrective action plan, which will be next year, but you just need to be aware of that. And that is basically a written plan that says how this is going to be resolved. Stephanie and I right now are the ones reviewing those. We're reaching out to you, calling you, talking to you about these issues. If you are taking office and there's one currently in progress, you're going to want to talk to one of us about that. Call either one and we'll get to the right one. And then just know going forward that this is potentially something you're going to have to work out. The whole point of this, this is in the statute now on repeat findings and reports. The whole point of this is to resolve the issue. We don't want to be, we want to make sure that it can be corrected, that it's not impossible to be corrected, that you understand what the issues are, that you understand what steps should be taken going forward to resolve the issues. So your field should be letting you know that, giving you this information and giving you suggestions. They can't do it for you, but they give you suggestions. If you looked at maybe this and this, or establishing these internal controls, that would correct it. Again, Stephanie and I follow up on that. So we work with you directly on the corrective action plans. They are uploaded here. There's a template that if you click on the CAP template that comes up, and there's just boxes where you fill in the information. You can print out. The template also be given to you at the exit so you have idea what the questions are for that. And there's a frequently asked questions on here as well, so some additional information on that. Again, this isn't something you are going to have to do right away. You may have to follow through on one that's already written. You're not going to be writing one right away, but I just want to show you where it is on that. Doing pretty good. So my last thing, again, for all three of the agencies, and they've all expressed it, I think, many, many times, do not hesitate to ask us if you have questions, problems. Reach out. Whoever you're comfortable reaching out to, again, we work together, or we will coordinate to get you the answer if it takes more than one agency or if someone else should be the one providing that. If you call me and ask me how to do your budget, I'm going to refer you to DLGF. You know, if you call and ask about fund uses, they're probably going to refer you back to us. But they usually, you know, what we do is make sure that you get your answer. So we don't just say, oh, call them. We will CC them, or they will CC us, or we will follow up. So should not be dropped. I'm not saying it could never happen, because we make mistakes too. We're all human. So if you don't get an answer fairly quickly, again, reach out again. You know, it shouldn't take forever. We do get behind, because the last 3 weeks, Stephanie and I have been doing newly elected commissioners and sheriffs, and now here for 3 days. So obviously we have not been answering very many of our emails. I think I have a little over 200 to get through, but I will get through them, and we will be getting you answers. So you have a little patience sometime, but if you haven't heard fairly quickly, then you need to let us know and reach out again. Are there any questions about anything while we still have everybody here, on anything for the agencies or the roles, or we've just totally put you out? Yes, ma'am. There are no stupid questions.
Will we be made aware if there's anything, any corrective action in the works now? I mean, when we're taking over?
I think I would recommend a two-prong report. First thing I would have you do is look at you have a chance to look at the prior supplemental report for your county, and see if there were any comments in there. I would hope they would be labeled as repeat if they have to. So it says at the top, this is a repeat comment from prior report, whatever. That's one that's going to have a corrective action plan. If it's not a repeat, there's not going to be one. I would hope that your predecessor will leave the corrective action plan. If they don't, not the end of the world. It's not a public document, but Stephanie and I have a copy of it. So at that point, reach out to us. If we haven't heard from you, yes, we will be calling you. So yeah. So the fail-safe is we will be getting in touch with you to follow up on those. Yes, ma'am.
The bank recs that we're going to be uploading in January, we started with the January 2019 bank recs. Okay, and we'll get notification on how to.
Yes. For treasurers, it's pretty much going to be the report you fill out anyway. You do a reconcilement on that, so it's pretty much going to be that. Auditors, it's pretty much your you don't have a bank rec. You have your funds ledger, but you have the minutes. If the minutes are available online, if you post them on your website, all you have to do is give us the link to that. You don't have to actually upload them if we can access them through a public link. So that's something to remember also.
So Laura, you're saying that all we do is that month-end report. That's all we're submitting to the gateway. We're not submitting our bank statements?
Not the bank statements themselves monthly. It's just the reconciliation. At the end of the year, that's the time we'll probably ask to see the bank rec, because we can do some stuff off-site with that, or the bank statement, but not every month, just the reconcilement itself. That tells us it's being done. It kind of gives us an idea if there's any issues with it.
You had said at one time that January report would be due from
March.
15. Will it always be like that?
Yes. Yeah, you have it. Yeah, it's not, yeah, you have time to close out your month, get your reconcilement done before you have to upload it. Yeah. Anything else? Well, Stephanie and I will be around here most of the day. I think Bob and Janie and Jenny will be leaving, so grab them. But you now have a 15-minute break, so enjoy, and we'll talk. I think the surveyors are breaking on.